Hello again, and welcome back to our discussion about confronting the false concept of race. This is number 6 in the series. I am new to this YouTube business, so I'm learning as I go, but I figured out today how to make a playlist. So if you go to my channel, here you are. I hope you're on my channel right now as you're hearing this, but if you go to my homepage and you see playlists, look for the one that has the word race in quotations, and you will get all of these in order. And I'm going to endeavor to make note of that on this one and on every subsequent one in this particular series. On my playlist, there's one music playlist. There is one called Steve Eats His Yard, which is another series that I'm working on. And there's this one. This one is called Race. So we're going to return to that topic today and consider how the truth of the Bible exposes this lie. And so we're going to review some scriptures that we have read in this series, but let's go look at them again. We're going to go to Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1, and let's read verses 26 and 27. Genesis 1, 26 and 27. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps on the earth." So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him, male and female he created them. And previously we noted with all living things that the word kind is used. And I'll just make note here, that word kind is in verse 11, verse 20, verse 21, verse 24, verse 25. And previous broadcasts discussed that term as used in those verses and the history of that term and how it got hijacked and how it helps us understand how lies get promulgated and how our culture becomes then affected by such lies. But here, man is just presented as man. There are not kinds of man. There is just mankind. Mankind is humankind. And all of these things help us to confront the false concept, understand the false concept of race. Now, we also mentioned Numbers chapter 12. Numbers chapter 12, I'm going to go and look. Now, this is the time when Aaron and Miriam complain against Moses. They bring a case before God the Father against their brother Moses. The real problem was they were jealous of all of the notoriety he was receiving. That is, he was in this special relationship, this special position with God, and they were a bit envious of this, and they bring up this issue, which they think is an issue, apparently. It says, Miriam and Aaron spoke against Moses because of the Cushite woman whom he had married, for he had married a Cushite woman. Now, their real complaint comes out later, but this is the thing they levy. This is the thing they put forward. Now, the Bible almost never mentions skin color. And here the reference is only an oblique one because Cushite, or Ethiopian, Cushite coming from the Hebrew Cush, and Ethiopian coming from the Greek Ethiops, means literally a person of dark skin, a person from Africa, for instance. And that's what is being mentioned here when Cushite, the word Cushite, is used. So the reason we bring this up in light of this discussion, you can read this chapter, see how it turns out, because God says, you should have been afraid to say anything against Moses. This is a man that I call my friend. This is the man that I, God, say is faithful in all my house. So he puts them straight on this. And if ever there was an opportunity for God to say, you know what, you're right, people of different skin colors should not marry one another, that was the opportunity for God to say that, and he did not say that. Now, one could argue that skin color between the Hebrews and the Cushites was not all that different anyway at this time, but even if there was the opportunity for God to say that, and I find an irony in the fact that Miriam is punished by being struck with leprosy, and one of the effects of leprosy is to remove pigment from the skin. So it's like God is having a little joke there. Oh, you think the color is bad? Well, we'll just remove all of that. How about? And then, of course, everybody pleads and says, no, restore her skin like it was. Moses pleads on her behalf. Consider that chapter, Numbers 12, in light of this discussion. And then over in the New Testament, another one that we have mentioned is Acts chapter 17. Now, this is Paul, a Jew, on Mars Hill in Athens, and he is at the Areopagus. He's been invited to speak, and he's addressing a group of Gentiles. A Jew is addressing a group of Gentiles, and he says something radical from the standpoint of how he had been raised as a Jew. He says, and he made from one man every nation of mankind to live on all the face of the earth, having determined allotted periods and the boundaries of their dwelling place. Verse 27, that they should seek God and perhaps feel their way toward him, yet he is actually not far from each one of us. Now, the reason I say radical is because, as we see, not radical from the standpoint of the truth of God's word, but radical from the standpoint of his culture, because he had been inculcated to think that Gentiles were less than human. And yet he says, we are one blood. We have all come from one man. That's quite a statement from this Apostle Paul, the Jew. And also we have noted in the genealogies in Genesis, if we go back there to Genesis and we pick up chapter 10 of Genesis, look at verse 4. Verse 4 is the summation of the genealogy of the descendants of Japheth. And it says, verse 5, read verse 5 is what I want. From these the coastland peoples spread in their lands, each with his own language, in their clans, in their nations. Language, clans, nations. Another way of saying clans, and sometimes in your translations it will say families. Nations, families, and lands. Nations, clans, languages, lands. These are the designations. Look at verse 20 of Genesis chapter 2. Verse 20, this is after we have the descendants of Ham given. These are the sons of Ham by their clans, their languages, their lands, and their nations. All right. Then the genealogy of Shem. This is Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the sons of Noah, and all the nations that came from them after the flood. And so the summation statement is given in verse 31. These are the sons of Shem by their clans, their languages, their lands. These are the clans of the sons of Noah, verse 32, according to their genealogies in their nations, and from these the nations spread abroad on the earth after the flood. Now here's what is conspicuously absent in the biblical genealogies. Color. Color is never used in the genealogies to distinguish between nations, to distinguish between ethnic groups, to distinguish between nationalities, peoples, languages. Never is skin color used to make that designation. Never. And we should take note of that. What we are talking about today is how the Bible, the truth of the Bible, exposes this lie of race. The whole concept of race is not from God. It is from Satan. It is from man. It is not the truth of God's word. Yes, God's word has been used wrongly to support the lie, but we're looking at what the Bible really says. And when you look at that, there's no way to support the lie. It only shows that it is a lie. In the Genesis creation account, every living thing, including human beings, is made according to its kind. The Hebrew word that is where we get our word kind is the word min. This word, as we have seen, means a kind, a form, or sort. In terms of humankind, there is but one, occurring in a really quite limited variety phenotypically, and as we shall see, an even more limited variety genotypically. The Apostle Paul confirmed this truth when speaking to an audience of Gentiles on Mars Hill, when he said, "We are of one blood, we are from one man." According to the Bible, in these and other passages, there is no such thing as the concept of race. That is, unless we are talking about, all that we are talking about is one race, and we are saying the human race. And the whole concept of mixture is predicated on purity, and what can a human possibly purely be except a human? Now here's where I like to use the 25% Christian analogy. All right, let's say that my grandmother, now I'm using my grandmother because I was brought up to understand that she was full-blooded Cherokee, all right? I've found that the story is a little more complex than that, but using this way, and it's ridiculous, and I'll speak to this, but let's say my grandmother, you see, was 100% Christian. And so my father was a half-breed Christian, you see. He is. My grandmother's no longer living. My father is. Okay, so my father's a half-breed Christian. He's 50% Christian. And I'm so happy to tell you that I am 1/4 Christian. I'm 25% Christian. Isn't that wonderful? Can you be 25% Christian? No. And guess what? All you can be is 100% human. Those numbers in those ancestry ads and in those pie charts, they don't mean a thing. Truly, they don't mean a thing. They're all based on algorithms from the various companies. So 25% Christian does not work. Neither does 25% Native American work. It just doesn't. And it's there's more to the picture. But we have to avoid the erroneous teachings of men. Racism in any form is erroneous teaching. Dividing up the human race according to skin color, that is not biblical either. Not biblical either. All right. Now, we're going to say some more about science next week. We're going to wrap this one up for this week. We're going to look at, again, the category of science and how science exposes this lie. And here's the question. Did you know that you have fewer genes than a banana? You have fewer genes than a banana. Truth. We'll look at that one next time. That's our little cliffhanger for this time. Thank you for watching this video. Please enjoy this video and comment, like, and share. I appreciate it. God be with you all. Much love and respect. In beauty walk. Bye for now.